Break Ride skill, pop these to my hand. Call 2 back out. Nothing. Okay, skill. Go back to the Meer. Rear guard. Rear guard. And that's basically it. Hopefully. Hopefully. Please. Hey yo, how's it going everyone? HB here today with another video. Today we're going to be doing another deck profile. This time not from the new sets because as you've probably seen, my packs pulling terribly this time. You did better. But this time around I'm going to be adapting one of my clans that I'm notorious for playing and trying to figure out how to make it better for this metagame. And so without further ado, let's talk about Meer for Bermuda Triangles. Now, for those of you who follow me competitively, whether that's the Winter Circuit or the Pro League or whatever, you will know that I have a pretty good track record with Bermuda. I don't think I'm that amazing of a Bermuda player. I think the deck is just broken. And so if you have a decently skilled player with a broken deck, you have good results. I think that's like a fair kind of logic right there, right? And so Nemuel, big fan of the deck just because of how insane that is. It's just so consistent and so scary. That's basically it. But right now, with Grand Blue, with Pale Moon, with Aquaforce getting supported, and they just get into your face, getting like 4, 5, 6, 8 attacks into your face possibly, it's really, really scary. And Nemuel, frankly, at this moment, I'm not very confident in it. So I did a lot of digging, right? Revisiting my core values as a Vanguard 0 player. And I was wondering, if it's not Bermuda, what is it? What is it? And the answer, after 4 days of soul searching, is Bermuda. The answer is Bermuda. Well, instead of Nemuel, we're going to be trying Meer instead. So, Meer is no mere god, no mere human. It's something beyond that, right? So let's talk about it. I think for this deck, I think we should start with the grade 3s, right? So we're still going to be playing Victoria. Victoria is still really solid. Quincy is still a very solid main. You're still going to be cloning stuff, which is really helpful, and it doesn't cost Cannon Blast. But instead of playing Nemuels, we will be playing 4 of the Break Ride Meers. Now, there's 2 different arts. Pick the one you like. But what Meer is it's actually a Break Ride unit, so it's a blast from the past. What it does is, when you Break Ride, it gets plus 10k, and when this unit attacks, +1, return any of your rearguards to your hand, and call up to 2. What this unit is great at is enabling basically 5 attacks for that turn, right? So you've always, like for a Nemuel build, if you wanted to go for a multi-attack play, you've always been able to use strides like Somni or strides like Olyvia, but the negative is that both of them can only really enable 4th attacks with their own skills, right? Because you can only call 1 in the front row, 1 in the back row with Olyvia, and you can only call 1 unit out with Somni, right? So what the Meer does, it gives you 1 extra shot. That doesn't mean you can't use Olyvia. It doesn't mean you can't use Somni. It's just 1 extra multi-attack option for your final push. And so, given this grade 3, you've changed the deck from a very defensive, reactive position where you're all about farming intercepts and PGs and hopefully maybe a straight crit or like a multi-attack would like push for game, to a very more proactive, like I have this way to Break Ride to attack 5 times. I could Stride to attack 4 times. I could Spica, make this 6. And you just have a lot more attacks going into your opponent. A lot of people don't really figure that that's a thing for Bermudas because Meer is definitely less popular. So you can catch people off guard and just smack them with fishies. Lastly, we actually play one of the duo Eternal Sister Meer. This is the new grade 3 from G set 2. This is the break rate target for Meer actually. If you're playing a pure Meer deck, this is probably familiar with you. But what it does is when it attacks, it basically restats, right? At the end of the battle, +1, discard 3, ride a Break Ride Meer from your soul, draw 2 cards, and then add this to your hand. So you can kind of infinite Break Ride loop and infinite multi-attack with this, right? That's really impressive. And in addition, it also has the +1, soul +1 once per turn, return a card, a rear guard from your field to your hand, and add a card with the same name. It doesn't have to be duo, which is really, really nice. And so how do we search for that one copy of Meer, you may ask? Well, that's why we play one copy of Dual Absolute Sister Meer. Now, in a pure Meer build, you probably play more of this maybe, but with just one copy of Meer, you can still choose to search it out with this unit, right? It says when you have a Meer heart, which is probably the break ride, you can flip something over and return one dual reroll to your hand and add a Meer from your deck to your hand. And of course we can't use the second one, but it's relevant for this deck really. But basically, if you're on the break ride and your opponent really isn't giving you much to like multi-attack and like combo off of, and they have big numbers, maybe cross-rate numbers or whatever, you can choose to go into this, add this to your hand, and get ready for like a big push for the next turn. And so I can get away with one. It's not important to the winning image. Generally, you still want to go Victoria onto the break ride, but it is an option. It's a one-of that's searchable and really helpful. Okay, so just really quickly, Medu, because Victoria is a Legion. And we play 2 of the Nectaria because it's still an on-hit, helps you clone, especially since we don't play Nemuel. Being able to clone more consistently is really helpful. Grade 2s, we have 4 Ronis. Again, no Nemuel, more cloning good. Queen C, resist good. Amelia resists good. And Spica multi-attacking. So depending on what you're seeing on the ladder, if you're seeing more like Kagero, Narukami, Gear Chronicle, Link Joker, play more Amelias. If you're seeing more Grand Blue, Pale Moon, Aquaforce, play more Spicas, right? So just depending on what you see, play around with it and find what works for you. For the grade 1s, you're still playing 4 of the dual PGs because dual PGs are searchable and clonable. We play 3 of the Kura because we don't need Nemuel anymore, and we do spend quite a bit of Counterblast here and there for your skills, so having that refund is nice. 4 of the Stride Fodder because without Nemuel, you don't have a lot of pressure without the strides, so it's really important. Especially when you're on the break ride, you don't really do much, right? So striding is important. And we play 2 of the Shizuku because still being able to get grade 3s from our deck to your hand is good, but we're not Legion spamming anymore, so not that valuable, not as valuable, I guess. And lastly, we play 1 of the Akari. It's a really good card. It's simply like a put 1 into your soul, draw 1, and then you can bounce something else as well to prop that skill, like a Quincy or Amelia. And then it can also have that pseudo resist, which is quite helpful. So that's basically it. Grade 1 ride target, probably a Stride Fodder if you have a grade 3 in your hand. Grade 2, probably an Amelia or Rone. And the grade 3, you're going to go into the break ride, and then probably go into the Victoria or the Meer in some situations. But first stride, generally going to be a Somni, maybe a Nectaria, depending on your opponent's board lineup. If your opponent has like 2 intercepts, generally Somni. If your opponent only has 1 intercept and you're not confident with scaling those numbers, then go into Nectaria, and then Olyvia for game, or Break Ride for game, or both. And then Meer, if you do want to search into the Meer. If your opponent's playing a slower game, then you can intentionally search into the Meer for a Break Ride big wombo combo play. So that's basically the list. Let's go into a game or 2 and see how this deck performs on the ladder. As you can see, I did get the Rumi Labyrinth playmat from the anniversary event. Well, I don't know why I'm using quotations because it is technically the anniversary event, but it's just really scuffed. But it's really nice, so I hope you get it. All you need is a second tier 2 ticket, so it shouldn't be as hard. You are foregoing 3 packs, but honestly, out of all the playmats, this one's the best one, well, in my personal opinion. So let me know what you're picking. So we're going to be playing against Narukami, which is great because our list, we play 7 grade 2 resists, and last time I checked, resist good. Victoria is fine. Alright, we got 2 Quincy's, 1 Rone, 1 Shizuku, 1 Victoria. It's all good. I think this is a pretty good hand. We're going second as well, which is pretty solid. Okay, going into the Stride Fodder. Sorry about that. Alright, just gonna ride this, call this out. Starter wise, I don't make a big deal out of it. But generally because you would prioritize, especially in this matchup, because you would prioritize running the Rone on the Vanguard circle and calling out the resist units on the rearguard circles, and Rone wants to hit first, I do rather have the booster on the rearguard circles, just so, well, it won't really, well, it'll be the first one to hit, and then I can proc the skill confidently, right? I'm just gonna attack like this. Unfortunately, we don't have the break ride. We don't have Meer here. But we do have 3 Victorias. And I guess one of the good things about this build compared to like the Nemuel Victoria build is you're not playing 8 legions, and so decks like Narukami, which tries to like bind you out of the legion, that strategy is not as effective against this build, which is nice, you know. It's not a big deal. I don't think Narukami is a great counter against Bermuda anyways, because especially if you're a whale, you have like 4 Olyvias, which, you know, you don't need to legion to win, you just Olyvia to win, right? Who knew crit pressure plus multi-attack good? But still, you know, it does mean it's less of a hassle. It does keep your options a little bit wider, and so that's one of the great things about Meer. It's much more aggressive, it's much more proactive, and it gets the job done. That's the most important thing. So opponent probably had like Vermilion, and they're like, probably gonna be resist spamming because they literally just cloned Quincy last turn. So should I go into the Vanquisher or go into the Vermilion? Frankly, I think going into the Vanquisher is still the right play, especially since, you know, we've only shown 1 resist so far, so it's a bit too early to tell. Okay, we got into the Meer, so we're obviously gonna go into that. And then striding, what do I want to go into? Actually, I might go into the Meer. I noticed I didn't turn on animations. I'm very sorry about that. I will turn that on right after this. Luckily, the strides are forced animations, so. Okay, and then we can do stuff like this. Turn one of your dual reaver to your hand. Sure, whatever. You can see this. Flip this. Yeah, flip this. Pop this. And I'll add the new Meer to my hand. And honestly, the grade 3s aren't too important right here. I'd rather just be able to attack. And so we're just gonna push. One of the challenges for me is that I find it really hard to differentiate the different Meer arts, the grade 3 Meers, because, well, you have black versions and white versions, sorry, black versions and noir versions for the Meers, right? And unfortunately, I'm playing 2 of 2 for the break rides, and the one we just added, like the G era one, that one is also black and noir, and they kind of look the same, frankly. Maybe I'm just like bad at this, but they really look the same to me, and so sometimes like I just add the wrong card. So I guess most important advice for myself would be just read the text, because the text tells you this is Eternal Sister and this is True Sister. So yeah, is it that big of a difference? It's like 1 word. It's one word out of 4 words. So it's still hard to tell, but yeah. Or maybe check out the frames, because the GR like triple rares are like they're like what, rectangular, like they're straight lines rather than that like curvy kind of thing with the pre-G era stuff. So that's neat. Opponent's gonna go into the, well, attack play. This is their first stride. Yeah. They're playing 7 strides, which is odd. But okay, yeah, there's no reason to use this because, okay. Yeah, there's no reason to use this. There's nothing to bind anyways. And they're gonna see some draws. Alright, they're gonna put us to OB4, which is great. It's great, you know? So, that does mean that we get to do our break ride shenanigans. We're gonna see some PGs go to the damage, but that's, you know, I don't think it's too important at this point. We're gonna keep drawing into our grade 3s, but we're gonna go into the break ride Meer. And we're gonna do some Meer plays. Very nice. Whoa. What's poppin'? What's poppin', yo? Should we pop this to our hand? Is it worth it? We need Camas 2 for this play. I guess it's. I think this is fine. I think this is fine. So 1, 2, 3. Break ride skill. Pop these to my hand. Banking on the trigger. Do we want to bank on the trigger? Not really. I'd rather just go for the win. Call 2 back out. This is the break ride skill. Do we want to use the skill for 1 draw? Sure, why not? You have to kind of last for it anyways, right? Okay. 1 check. 2 checks. Nothing. Okay, skill. Discard 3. 1, 2, 3. Gonna go back to the Meer. Gonna draw. Gonna attack rearguard. Attack rearguard. And that's basically it. Hopefully. Hopefully. Please. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's like it plays like an LB Break Ride era deck, so nothing much, nothing too special about the plays. Unfortunately, the reason for that is because, well, I didn't get to showcase any like duo skills like Rone PG spamming, or going into Victoria, or showing the value of resist spamming. And it's still doable. It's just Narukami binded everything from the drop, and you know, the situation, we were able to push to 5 early, so I think the break ride with the Meer play and just multi-attacking just worked a lot better. So we're gonna go into, is this another Narukami match? Alright, well, well, we all know the Victoria isn't really doing well for us, so let's just mulligan harder for the Meer again. I mean, it works out, because we are trying to showcase Meer specifically, right? But, well, it is what it is. So they're going to be playing the other Raid 0 instead of the Grade 3 Searcher. This card's pretty eh. Alright, we're going to see the Meer, which is awesome. We do want to stride, though, so I'm just going to ride this Kura and call this out. And the Kura, you might go like, well, you know, is it that important? Is it that important? Soul Blast 2 for Counter Charge 2 doesn't seem that valuable. But as you can see from last game, Counter Blast is actually quite a bit of an issue. So I have rotated this card out for like Soul Blast 2 draw 1, or playing the 6+4s. And at the end of the day, I do think that the ability to just Soul Blast 2 to Counter Charge 2 is really valuable. Soul Blast 2 might seem like a very big cost, but given that sometimes we do want a Legion, and against matchups like Narukami where they can just like bind or drop zone, being able to Soul Blast 2 and set 2 cards to the drop zone during your main phase without interruption is actually quite valuable. Alright, so we're just going to go into the Rone. Nothing too special about this play. I'm going to call the Shizuku, and I'm going to call the PG. So we can comfortably do that because the Rone is guaranteed to hit, and we can always bounce the PG. And so, even though we're constantly drive checking PGs or whatever, you can see that as long as we see some of our dual pieces, as long as we see PG actually, we can still do the cloning PG shenanigans. We have Rone as an option, we have Victoria as an option, we have Nectaria as an option, and so you still have 3 units that can help you clone, which makes the deck really potent to do its duo stuff as well. So they're going to go into the Vermilion. Could be a choice, intentional choice. It could also just be a demerit for not playing the Grade 3 Searcher, which I much recommend over this whatever 5+3 scaler. And so let's see if this makes a difference in our game. They're just gonna sack though, so good on them. Jatura here. Okay, PG to damage, that's not good, but we can still clone PG. Alright, I'm just gonna go into the break ride. This is the break ride, yeah. When rode upon. Okay, I'm gonna go into the multi-attacker actually. So because they showed quite a bit of triggers already, I am more confident that they're less likely to see a trigger. with 1 defensive check. And so going into the Somni, what I can still do is I can still bounce the Rone, call up the Rone, hit with the Rone, and then still clone the PG. So hopefully things will go our way. But you never know, right? You really never know. So we can only hope for the best. This is the... Yeah, this is the break ride. Okay. So 9. And if they really, well, hit a defensive and we don't see an offensive trigger, luckily we did, I guess we can call it a grade 3 to extend our damage count and try to equalize things in terms of that instead. So luckily they did it. We're just going to bounce the Rone, we're going to call the Rone, and then the Rone is going to hit, and then we're going to clone the PG. And so we set ourselves up in a very comfortable position where if our opponent doesn't bind our stuff, then I guess we can go into like Victoria and then clone something. If our opponent does bind our stuff and try to play much more of that kind of play, we can still go into like break ride play to try to end the game, or we can also still try to go to the Olyvia or another Somni or whatever, and still apply some pressure to our opponent's face. So I think that's a really great part of the deck. One of the weaknesses of Narukami is that a lot of their skills are RNG. So like for example, the Zoras needs to well, it's priority with back row, and then with one of the pseudo resists, it's 50-50 with whether or not they're going to snipe something out. So of course they're going to see a trigger again. They do that every single turn. Not much we can do about that. But yeah, so 50-50, they missed that coin flip, but they can still bind the 2 heals, which is what they do. So going into the Victoria might not be the best play, but we do have the Spica. So right now, what is the play? Frankly, I can clone Rone. Tempting. I think that's a pretty fine play. Right? Is it? Or should I just break ride Spica moves? Or striding. Thinking. 11 is a tough number. I think I'm just gonna go into the Olyvia. I think I'll just go into the Olyvia and just reset the column and try to go with that. Alright, Amelia's great. Do we have 16? 16. So don't need to worry about that because the Olyvia can bounce the back row. So not something to worry about. Spica is going to help us bounce this. And call, well, it doesn't hit numbers, so might as well just call this back. We can Camelast 1 to draw 1 if we want to, but I don't think it helps here. They're going to see a defensive, which really sucks for us. I'm just going to attack with this. Bounce 3 stuff. And then call 2 stuffs. So even though our left side doesn't really hit the numbers, if we see 1 trigger, we can still pump this 21. And then we can bounce the back row booster, call something else to the left side, and still hit those numbers. So let me just showcase that really quick. Bounce this. It's gonna go to the drop zone, unfortunately, I think. Yeah, but that's fine. We're gonna call this out. Does it hit the numbers? No, it's 20! Math is hard. Yeah, unfortunately that's 20. I don't think it's worth it to call a grade 1 or whatever though. Math is hard. That's tough life. That's a tough life. Alright, then went into the Crimson. I mean, I guess since they use so many defensive to guard just now, I think it's worth it. Soul Blasting the Vanquisher, just so they can make sure that they have the Vermilion in the drop zone for the Legion. And this play is going to ask us for 3 defensives. So luckily we do have 1, 2, 3 PGs. We have 2 heal guards as well. And what is a positive about this play is that unless they have Jaturas, they can't actually bind our stuff anymore. So if we do get checked for heal guards, next turn we can always go break right into the Victoria and then clone for, well, return heals and also clone for PGs, which is really nice for us, for sure. So Chatura here, oh sorry, what is this called? Voltage Horn, I meant Voltage Horn. Yeah, so here they're just gonna, alright, again draw a trigger, every single turn, that's what we expected already. Just gonna ask for a PG here, and 2 heal guards. So yeah, next turn is definitely gonna be a Victoria turn. So just drawing some Meers, not the right one, but okay. Break ride. And we can clone PGs, we can also clone Rones. So it just depends on what you feel like, really. Personally, I think cloning PG is better because our opponent can bypass intercepts, right? So intercept cloning is not as valuable at this moment. 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's fine. Not returning the other Meer because we already broke ride. Even if you go into that Meer first, well, it's gonna suck quite a bit, but at least it's skill. You can still do some shenanigans, I guess, with cloning or whatnot. I'm gonna be calling. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm calling this out. Calling this out. So in the Vanguard first, maybe we'll see some triggers. Oh yeah, I forgot we can bounce. That's a misplay. I'm like half asleep. That's a misplay. We could have decked with the Rone first to ask for stuff. But so don't do that. Misplay. Could have got one more swing to the face. That could have been big, especially since they seem low on cards. Okay, no more heal guards, only PGs. They did return heals, right? Like 2 heals to the deck, so that makes sense. But for next turn, we still have 3 PGs, and oh well, we already used Olyvia, which kind of sucks. I wish we were a bit richer, and so we could play 4 Olivias, but that's just how it is sometimes. And they're just gonna use their skill. It's for free, which is nice. And as you can see, the starter never did anything, so don't really understand the hype. I've tested it. Don't really understand. I mean, it's helpful to hit numbers in some scenarios, but it's just too rare. I'd rather be more consistent with the grade 3s that I want to see, especially since you can want to see the different grade 3s, the 2 different grade 3s, whether that's the Vermilion or the Vanquisher, depending on the matchup, right? So here, I think at this point we're just gonna go into the Somni. Oh, this is grade 1. Nothing much to clone, so there's no reason to like ride Victoria or whatever. Going into Medu gives us another grade 3, but it's not like we don't have enough grade 3s already at this point. So it's not that valuable. Yay, add a Victoria to our hand. Awesome. 11. That's PG. And 11. Victoria seals the deal. They still have 3 heals left, but we still have a strat to hit over that. And that's game. That's game. So as you can see, I messed up with the break ride play. You know, clearly not paying attention, but the deck plays itself really, like, it's pretty straightforward. And I definitely think that the positive is that it's much more aggressive. So this build, I think, is easier to manage by more players, actually, because you don't have to think through, well, do I do offensively or defensively? Do I do, if it's offensively, do I do A, B, or C? Defensively, do I do A, B, or C? Instead, with this deck, it's just, well, do we break ride? Do we stride? Maybe sometimes we Legion. But then even that, those decisions are still simpler, in my personal opinion. And so I think this deck could be easier to handle for most players than the Nemuel Victoria build. But for what it's worth, as you can see, the deck is really strong, the deck is really aggressive, and the deck wins games. People always claim that Narukami is a hard matchup for Bermuda, and as you can see, even though I am clearly an airhead and an idiot, things still worked out. So that's nice. Being able to play 7 resist units is nice, especially. So yeah, give this list a try. It's not too expensive. You don't even really need the Olyvias. You could play more Somnis, or play more Nectarias, or play more Harmonics or whatever. The deck really is focused on having the break ride push, but also transitioning into Legion spamming if the matchup permits. So that's basically it. Thank you so much to the members of the channel, Kamui, 2Mellow, ZBD, and Casey. Appreciate you all for being members and supporting the channel. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already and want to see more. And I hope you forgive me for unleashing this build or this list onto the ladder, because I know most people don't like Bermuda, but how do I say this? I like winning games, and this is a very reliable deck to win games. So if you like winning games, definitely give this a shot. Really simple deck and straightforward winning image. So that's basically it. Thank you so much. Hope you have a good day, and see you in the next video. Bye.